Welcome back to the Five Star Podcast. Again, I'm your host Jesus, and I got my co-host with me, Ray.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
What's going on, man? Everything good with you today?
Yes, sir. Good day.
All right, let's get right into it. I know this is the biggest news that was going on last week. Russ wanting out of Seattle, but not wanting out of Seattle. We had the tweet from Adam Schefter saying that he did not demand a trade, but he did tell the Seahawks if you were to play somewhere else, it was the Cowboys, Saints, Raiders, and Bears. And anytime you throw the Cowboys in, big time trade rumors, everything blows up, speculation left and right. And I know that we're kind of late on it, and so it's kind of settled down. We kind of already know that it's probably not going to happen, but I figured we still touch on it and give you our thoughts of like when it initially happened, what we were thinking, like, oh. So if you want to go first, like, what were your initial thoughts, like when you first heard, like, oh, you mentioned the Cowboys?
Um, Initial thoughts were, um, I didn't even want us to like open that box, and of
Yeah.
course, like every single newscast and sportscast was talking about it, and of course, like you said, anytime you mention the Cowboys with big time players, and they mention us, it's like people go wild with it. For me. I'm like, man, we we already have a lot on our plate with we're trying to re-sign Dak, and now you're throwing this into the mix. It's like for me personally, like was not welcome news. But we did have a brief discussion, like is Russ an upgrade?
Yeah.
You know, what does that do for our team? Like what exactly? How much better is he than Dak, if any? Um,
Yep.
I think my initial thoughts is, yeah, like Russell Wilson gets his team consistently into the playoff like every single year,
Yeah.
practically. And I think he's missed once out of the past maybe 6 years or 7 years, something like that.
Yep.
So I like Russell Wilson. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's probably a top five, worst case, top 10 quarterback. Um, Great quarterback for sure, no doubt about it. Is he good for us? I think what we'd have to give up to get him would likely be more than two first round picks, likely three. Um, and that's where it starts to feel like it's not worth it. That's where you start to feel like, yikes, like we already have Dak, let's just re-sign him, like I mean,
No, for sure. I mean, initial thoughts, like you called me, and then you were like, "Yo," we talked about it, and my thoughts were like, I don't know, man. Like, I kind of see him as the same guy, and then you looked up all the stats and like how he's made the playoffs, like you mentioned, almost like all his career except like two times, was it?
once or twice,
Yeah,
yeah.
once or twice, and like you were stating all that, I'm like, no, I mean, I'm not saying he's not good, but like I said, I don't see it as a big upgrade. And that's not even talking like you just literally mentioned what we would have to do to give up. I mean, and that's where it kind of got blown out of proportion when you really thought about it. It's like, okay, so you're gonna have to, you have to make Dak sign his franchise tag, and then trade him, and he has to agree to the trade too, and it was just like,
No. Why Dak though?
no, if you wanted a trade,
Oh, trade Dak
yeah, if you
out.
wanted to trade Dak out, yeah, like
To
there was
to
that
who,
possibility.
the
No, to the
Seahawks?
Seahawks, yeah, yeah. If we were
Oh,
going
okay,
that
okay.
possibility, now the
Sorry,
other,
okay.
yeah, the other one was just trade other pieces to get him, because
Yeah.
it would have to be a trade, and then it was just gonna be very complicated to even happen. No, those kind of rumors kind of died down, but yeah, it just seemed like very complicated the further in we got as the days went by. But initially, it was kind of like I really didn't see any benefit honestly in bringing him in. I think Dak's leadership is just as good, if not better, than Russell Wilson. I think talent wise, the best is yet to come for Dak, because Dak's. I mean, there's like some stats I've seen, and since he's been quarterback, like he's like one of the most winningest quarterbacks. His percentage, completion rate's one of the best. So, I just didn't really see like a huge upgrade for what we had to give up. You know.
Yeah, I think what Russell Wilson has brought has been consistency,
Yeah.
and he's great because he's consistently good.
Yeah.
Um, I think Dak, for a lot of people, the verdict is still out there. You know,
100%.
we still haven't determined like just how good he is, just how consistent he is. You know, there's like not this year, but the year prior, he just, you know, I know you mentioned it so much. He's
Yeah.
just missing passes. He was just missing like open receivers. Like you can't do that, you know, and we've had those discussions where it's like just how good is he, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we've never doubted like that he's capable of being great, but I think the verdict is still out there on Dak, whereas Russell, you know, you've got this guy who's already proved himself over all the years. But like you said, Dak is young. Dak, his best days are ahead of him.
Correct.
Like
Yeah.
he's gonna improve, and I think right now, if you put them side by side, who's better? I think Russell Wilson. I think in many ways, I think Russell Wilson's the superior quarterback today.
Yeah.
But you look at it over potentially a 5-year stretch.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I don't think that difference is potentially so bad. Like, if Dak continues to improve every single year, which I have no reason to believe that he won't, you know, if he continues to improve, I think 5 years from now, he'll be either Russell Wilson or better,
Yeah.
you know? Um, well, within 5 years, not necessarily 5 years out, you know? Um, I think the biggest thing, though, is you know, I think Russ already had maybe a couple years left on his contract, whereas Dak, you know, we're still working on signing him. I mean, we've got apparently 6 more days before, you know, we reach the point where he'll become a free agent if we don't franchise tag him. So, you know, we've really got to get that figured out.
Yeah.
And that's the flip side, right? It's like the amount of money we have to pay him.
Yeah, and we'll get to Dak in a little bit here, but yeah,
Hmm.
with Russell Wilson, definitely, yeah, at the end of the day, like you couldn't go wrong either way if it was just a straight up trade, because we always talk about, as you get older, you just the great quarterbacks develop the ability to just know what the play is going to be before, what the defense is going to play before the snap, and that's like super important. And that's one of those things where it goes back to Dak's breakout year when we still had Tony Romo. When I said that we should have kept Tony Romo once he became healthy because he adds that factor of he knows what the defense is going to play. And I really felt that we had a better chance, even though of course Dak was rolling. It was going to be very hard to start Romo, but the Broncos did do that with Peyton Manning. They had Brock Osweiler who got them through the playoffs, got them right in, and then they still went back to Peyton Manning. And so I felt like the Cowboys should have done that back then, but it's neither here nor there. Just talking about mentally though, like that does add a lot of value. So I would definitely not be mad, like, or be like, you couldn't go wrong either way. Like he's 31, Russell's 31, he's got a few years left, of his prime, and it just looks like this guy just studies the game really, really hard. He works hard. He's a great leader. So I wouldn't be mad if they had traded for him, but it was just going to be very complicated just to even try to get him.
Yeah, I mean, no way Seattle lets him walk, you know, for anything less than 2 first round draft picks. And, you know, teams have been doing that where they give up a lot of picks for certain players, and
Yeah,
people are giving up, you know, like the Rams is an example where they're like it seems like every year they're trading out their 1st round draft pick for a stud, you know, and it helps them for sure. Like they've
yeah.
managed, but
Well, that seems to be the new that's a whole other topic because that seems to be the new thing that they're doing. If you don't have a top 10 pick or top 12, it's like doesn't even matter. They rather get someone who is going to impact right away than potentially bust.
yeah,
It's
and
becoming more common. Yeah,
yeah, and it's a fair because I mean you look at our some of our 1st round draft picks like Taco Charlton, like
yeah,
you know, didn't really have a huge impact with us or any
yeah,
team that he was on, you know. So, you know, yeah, it's hit or miss with the draft, and when you trade for a player, you know, a a veteran player that's like at the top of his game, you
yeah,
know, yeah, you know what you're getting. You're gonna get that that level of talent. So, you know, Russ. he's great, man. And I think any team, I'd say most teams would be better
Yeah,
with him.
100%.
I think, Russ is a win now type of mentality. Like win this year, next year, maybe, it makes us into a contender. Maybe these next well, not that we're not with Dak, but
Yeah.
it immediately, like, yeah, he would have a positive impact, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
for the minimum, right, next 3 years, like, we'd be in great shape. But yeah, I mean, he is 31. At what point will we see decline?
Yeah.
And Dak is still young, and he has a long way to go, you know?
Yeah.
Um, Russell, though, like, the age thing, 31's, I mean, when you look at what Tom Brady's doing,
Yeah.
you're kind of like, well, he could play another 9 years and, win 6 Super Bowls. You don't know. So, I mean, it's hard to make those. I mean, everything has risk involved with it, but no, I think, the Cowboys, I mean, they already made it very clear. Like,
Mm-hmm.
apparently they're laughing at that prospect of that trade.
Yeah.
They're not interested. Dak is our guy. We still haven't paid him though. So that's what they're saying. Now let's see if they back it up and actually sign him before, we have to franchise tag him.
Yeah. No, 100%. And that's a good segue here. Moving on to Dak and his update on his contract. Weekly update here. So we had a
Yeah.
Jane Slater talking about. If y'all don't know, you can follow Jane Slater on Twitter, Slater NFL. She's like a big source for the Cowboys. She knows a lot of people inside the organization, so she's always breaking news. But she said that Dak's been in the facility, meaning the Cowboys facility, rehabbing every day, so it's not like contentious, and that the talks have been good between Stephen Jones and Dak's agent, as opposed to like last year where they were apparently not that good. They're better than they have been. She quotes, and that they both want to get this deal done. It's still kind of they're still kind of stuck on that. Cowboys want 5, Dak wants 4. So there's gonna be some give and take. She says whether it's more guaranteed money or it's more signing bonus money, and that's kind of like the kinks that they're figuring out. So that's a little update there with Dak. But yeah, I mean the franchise. I mean tag March 9th is what we said. Yeah, that's when they have to officially franchise tag him. Which I mean they will if they can't come to an agreement. But yeah, I mean, all reports seem to indicate that they will get something done. Again, I don't know what's like the real holdup. It seems like this is
Right.
something they can just like, hey, all right. But there's one thing to note though is, and we said it in the past, especially me and Ray over the past few years, like Jerry Jones isn't in command anymore, like to the degree that he was even like 5 years ago. Like he has let Stephen Jones take over pretty much everything. I mean, he still has quote unquote the final say, right? But he's let Stephen Jones kind of run the organization, run like who gets drafted, like everything. So it's kind of passing on the baton to him there.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that more and more. Stephen Jones just playing a bigger role, and to me, it's been a positive change.
Yeah,
Jerry of the past, we know what he is. He goes for the big stars and the skill players, and
yeah,
out of nowhere we start taking offensive linemen, and we're like,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah, it
like
started with Tyron Smith, I think, was the first one we took,
Tyron Smith a while back, and
and then
then
Frederick, and then Martin. When
yep,
we had that Martin draft is when we had a chance to take Johnny Manziel. And so
yeah,
that's kind of when you knew, like
that
for sure,
was that was the big one.
yeah.
That was the big one for sure.
But so that's how maybe Stephen Jones just plays a little more hardball, and he's more methodical and thinking and kind of thinks team first instead of player first. I guess I don't know. It just seems like this is such a simple issue that they've been going at it for 2 years that it's like, come on, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it is concerning. I think all Cowboys fans are tired of talking about it almost. I mean, I know that we are. It's like,
Yeah,
what is Dak? What is he to us? Like, how much do we value him? How good is he? That
yeah.
there's Cowboys fans who love him. There's Cowboys fans that say that he shouldn't be paid like a top quarterback. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Very
think the
polarizing.
reality
Yeah.
is, at the end of the day, you got to make your decision. You got to either pay him or not, and there's risk involved with both options. But you you can't string them along year after year after year, and it's like, what are we doing? You know, like either sign them or don't, but let's go. Like, I mean,
And
I don't know.
I wouldn't even put this past, as much as we're talking about right now that Stephen Jones is in control. I wouldn't put this past Jerry Jones telling Stephen, "Hey, milk this out for as long as you can. Let's keep our name in the headlines in the off season." you know. No, it
Gosh.
sounds crazy, but hey, you never know, man. He loves to be in the conversation all the time. I mean, he talked about it after the season, where that's important to him, making sure that Cowboys are always being talked about.
Yeah.
And this just seems like a super simple issue that should have been hashed out a long time ago. Maybe last year, like you didn't know what he was going to be and stuff. Still, like you had doubts, but this year, after all the quarterback movements that happened with Wentz, with Goff and like you have to pay him. Like who else are you going to get at this point? You know?
And that, and when you think about the prospect of signing him versus not signing him, right?
Yeah.
What's the worst that happens if you sign him and he's a bust,
Yeah.
right? Then you end up with a bad contract. Your team can be crippled for, the next 3, 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
because it's really hard to bring anybody in when you have a quarterback taking up a huge portion of your cap space.
Yeah.
That's the negative, right? But now let's say we let him go and then he kills it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Which one hurts you more?
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean,
Like, to me,
yeah.
that's the worst case
Ex
scenario.
Cowboys players always hurt me the most.
When they leave
Yeah.
and just do so well, Cole Beasley is
Demarcus Ware.
yeah, Cole Beasley, we let him walk and
Yeah.
he is killing it over in Buffalo. I love Cole Beasley.
Yeah.
He to me was just a fun player to watch, and
He's
he was a
reliable.
little guy
Very reliable.
that just always did it for you. Like he
Yeah.
pulled through, like you said, reliable. So losing him was tough, and then seeing him go somewhere else and just go beast mode it's hard to watch because you're like, man, we had him. We could have kept him.
Yeah.
And I feel like, to me, paying Dak and let's see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm.
We find out what he is. So that's fine with me. But letting him go and then he just kills it somewhere else, oh, that's painful.
Yeah.
Especially in the quarterback position. That is the worst, like, possible thing.
Oh,
That
100%. And I feel
Yeah.
like we shouldn't be scared of the failing part because look what happened to Wentz. As long as he doesn't fail terribly, which I don't think Dak's capable of failing terribly. Wentz, failed pretty bad. They pulled
Yeah.
him, and look, people like quarterbacks are so in need in the NFL that there's gonna be someone who's like, no, you know what, we can turn it around, we can make him better, or our coaching staff can do it. Like they
Yeah.
showed this, they showed that, and so we shouldn't be afraid that if he does bust, quote unquote, like that there's not a possibility of trading him. There's always a possibility if the quarterback's any, you know, any signs of being good. How many times did
Yeah.
Jay Cutler get a chance?
Oh yeah.
Like people get chances, and if you're a good guy, if you're a good leader, like and no one has anything bad to say about you, you're gonna get another chance. And so yeah, I don't know what the holdup is, but we will definitely keep our eye out. Of course, March 9th is the designated like when the franchise ends, so that's next Tuesday. So we'll have some more information for you on next week. But moving on to like another big topic, and we were definitely going to talk about this in terms of, hey, where should this next person go, and should we try to pursue him? And it broke that J.J. Watt signed to the Cardinals, and there was a lot of speculation of, like, where was he going? And there was like this whole Peloton thing where they had three names under the profile, and he tweets like, "Hey, I don't even have a bike." And then like later on in the day, he tweets source me, and it's him in like a Arizona Cardinals shirt while he's working out. So yeah, he chose the Arizona Cardinals. For initial thoughts when you first heard about JJ Watt going to the Cardinals.
Yeah, my initial thought isn't so much even with JJ Watt and the Cardinals, but
Yeah.
like just what a disaster Houston has been.
Mm.
Like with Bill O'Brien and like just everything that's gone
Yeah.
on over there, like they have the trading away, DeAndre Hopkins over
Mm-hmm.
to the Cardinals. From that point on, I mean, you're just like, what are you doing? Like you're losing your best player, minimum best receiver, like, and what like I think I forgot what it was that they traded for. It was like it was a running back, but it was just like to me that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, Houston, what are you doing? Like you're losing your best player, And then now it's like, you got JJ Watt going somewhere else, like not interested in staying in Houston.
Yeah.
And now, you've even got um
Deshaun Watson.
yeah, Deshaun Watson wanting out of there. It's like, what is going on? Like what is happening over there? Like nobody wants to be there anymore. And they just lost their three biggest players. Like no, I don't think enough people are bringing attention to this, or I'm not paying attention to what people are saying about it. But to me, it's an absolute like,
Well,
it's a disaster going on.
yeah. There's a lot of reporting there if you really get into it of Houston and why this actually has been in the making. When, like I said, there's a lot of details on like who took
Yeah.
over after Bill O'Brien and how it was just a guy that like was buddy buddy with the owner and he really doesn't know anything about football and a lot of
Hmm.
crazy stuff going on over there. But as far as like JJ Watt leaving, I read that it was like that the Houston actually did him a favor the way they released him and stuff to be able to sign to a team that he wants. So at least they did that for him. But I was just more shocked. Okay, so the reason I was shocked is because I felt like JJ Watt was at the point of his career where he just wanted to go to a Super Bowl team because he's still really good. He's had a lot of injuries, in his career, but seems like he stayed pretty healthy last year. He's still very impactful, and he's at the point where he's getting older. And players do this all the time. They go to what used to be, Tom Brady and the Patriots. That's where all the good players used to go because they know it was like a for sure ring. So I thought he was either going to go to Kansas City or maybe even join Tom in Tampa. So it shocked me when it was Arizona. But then, Adam Schefter tweets that it's a 2-year, $31 million deal with $23 million guaranteed, and so that got me saying, okay, so he actually just wanted the money, because you're paying $15 million for JJ Watt, maybe like JJ Watt 4 years ago, but like JJ Watt now, like, oof, that's a tough. I mean, there's no way we could have signed him. There's no way Kansas City would have signed him for sure. So he did it for the money, and like he's been saying like that he went up to Kyler Murray and he was like, hey, I signed with Arizona because I believe in you. Like kind of making it seem but we all know it was mostly because of the money. I mean, $15 million a year for someone at his position
To
is a
to
lot.
a degree, um, you know, that does seem to be the case, but my understanding is he had a better offer from Indy.
I did read that too. Yeah,
So, then the question is, well, was it all money? Because if Indy is offering more, I mean, are the Cardinals really in a better spot to win a Super Bowl than Indy that you would, you know,
yeah.
give up some money to
Well,
go
that
over
goes to
there?
my
Like,
point that it was about the money, because if he really just wanted to about winning, it would have been Kansas City or Tampa, or maybe even the Rams or something. Teams that like remember opposite side of Aaron Donald, or with Aaron Donald. Imagine there's a lot of teams that are better suited for winning. Yeah, Colts. Depending on how Wentz plays, I mean the Colts are set up to be a really good team. They just needed the quarterback. So if they got the quarterback right, then yeah, they're probably better off than Cardinals.
yeah,
And then Cardinals is depending on what Kyler Murray does. Is he gonna get better, take that next step this year? Like, that's a big risk. Like, if I were JJ Watt, I would definitely gone to Kansas City or Tampa, 100%.
yeah,
But
yeah. I
that would have
mean,
required way less money. Go ahead.
no, yeah. I mean, when you think about that, I mean, he is in a position where, I mean, to me, I think the interesting thing is, you know, the Cardinals. they're they're really just they started off hot.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray was like doing really well. I mean, they beat the heck out of us.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close, and Kyler Murray just completely torched us. And then, they were just looking like this just star-studded team. Like they're doing great. Then
Mm-hmm.
they just flamed out the second half of the season, and they were out. So, you know, JJ Watt to the Cardinals, yeah, maybe it is completely about money, and that's fine. Um, but yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm surprised. I think, you know, I expected him to maybe go with a team that was a little bit more, solidified and ready to maybe, compete.
Yeah.
With that said, though, the Cardinals could very well be one of those teams. Like they did show the potential in the first half of last season that they could be a playoff contender. So by
Yeah.
all means, like I'm not knocking his decision. And obviously, at the end of the day, like that decision is his. What factors actually went into it, we'll maybe never know. But I mean, Houston though, you mentioned that they did him a favor and all this stuff. My point is, if you have an organization where you're the greatest players you've got that have been with you their entire careers and they want to leave, something's wrong.
No,
And
something's been wrong. I mean, even back when Andre Robinson left, he left on a bad note, and I mean, he was not shy about talking crap about the organization. This is when a few years ago, um, and he was there the whole time, and he was a great player for them. No, something's definitely up. That organization is trending down 100%.
yeah,
Sorry to make you all
yeah.
mad because I know that Cowboys and Houston fans go at it a little bit. It's just what it is, man. I'm sorry, like we're all from Texas,
Yeah.
they're in a different conference. I don't really care that much for the
Yeah,
Texans, but
that rivalry is it to me it's not very existent
yeah,
like I think they've tried to build that up.
yeah,
And yeah, I live in Houston, so
yeah,
I'm around Houston Texans fans and yeah, a couple times at the store with my Cowboys cap and I've been told, "Hey, you got a stain on your cap." And I'm like, "Yeah, get out of here, man."
yeah,
So there's a little bit of that talk, and it's friendly banter whatever, but I don't know. I just don't feel that competitive against the Texans, and
yeah,
maybe it's because they've really never done anything too special. They have beaten us in some regular season games. They have done well here and there, but I don't feel like it's a true rivalry the way we feel it with,
the
the
Eagles,
Washington
yeah,
football team, the Giants, the Eagles.
yeah,
Like those are rivalries that we're
Packers
like,
actually even.
yeah, yeah. Even the Packers, you can throw them in there as well.
No, yeah, no, the
Even
the the Texans are like the Clippers to the Lakers. Like you're never like it's no matter what you guys do, it's irrelevant.
the okay, that's a bit strong,
No, but you
but
guys in a different conference. That's what I'm saying. Like irrelevant to us. Like we play you
okay.
guys like every other year or like every few years. Like it's fine.
Yeah, there's just not a direct competition there
Yeah,
is the problem, right? But
yeah,
to make it a true rivalry. But yeah, between just people from Texas, you're like, no, you want the Cowboys to be better always, but
yeah,
half the time we're not. Like one year we're up, the next year
yeah.
they're up. Like it's completely inconsistent in both franchises. So neither one of us really have much to brag about anyway. So
Yeah, no, no way. No, but
neither one of us has done anything really like special in the past.
I,
You
I
know,
think they might have won more playoff games than us. Honestly,
maybe
I don't
by
know.
one or
Tied,
two.
yeah.
I don't know.
No, but him leaving, like I said, I think you did say that he did have more better offers, but it had to do a lot with money. If it didn't have to do with money, like I said, he would have gone to a real contending team that's like solidified and ready to go. Back to back champs with Tampa, KC just reload, or like I said, even the Rams. I wouldn't like when you have Aaron Donald over there. Oof, you know that could be trouble. Kind of
Yep,
like reminds me of like when Ware went over there with Von Miller in Denver, and those
yep.
guys were just oof.
Straight to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and we got a lot of flack for it, but just to remind Cowboy fans, we had to pay. We were gonna have to pay Ware a lot of money at the time, a lot.
Yeah, and he was declining. Like
Yeah, I mean, he
he
showed up
wasn't.
for 3 years, 2 years, maybe 2 3 years, and
Yeah, yeah, but never to where he was originally,
Yeah.
like, where
But he
when he was younger.
like we just said, he had Von Miller on this side helping him out. Like you can't
Oh
stop
yeah.
both of them.
When he was with us, he was the number one.
Yeah.
When he went over there, he was the number two. He was not getting double teamed. He was not. That was all on Von Miller. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
give D Ware one-on-ones, yeah. Like you just
Yeah.
made it easy on him.
Yeah. No. So we still got Deshaun Watson to see what's gonna go on with him. You know, he's playing hardball. He talked to the coach, making it like, hey, I'm literally not playing. Like I'm not gonna play. We'll see once game checks or once he starts getting fined and stuff like that. See how far that goes. Because I was gonna bring up like, hey, where do you think JJ Watt's gonna go? Hey, where do you think Deshaun Watson's gonna go? Hey, where do you think Russ is gonna go? But we all kind of know that Russ is more than likely gonna stay in Seattle. Deshaun Watson, I don't know. I don't know how that one's gonna work out. They're kind of in the same situation that Seattle is in. It's gonna be hard to trade because he makes so much money, and like they're gonna want someone really good back. And it's like, what do teams really have to offer? You know.
Yep.
And there's a no trade clause in his contract, so they can't just trade him. Like he has to agree to the trade.
Yep.
So it's gonna be
Absolutely.
very very complicated. But just to go moving on here to the final thing we're gonna talk about today, just kind of like the timeline of how this off season. In case y'all weren't familiar, I have it up here if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. Um, so right now we're in the franchise window, so between March 20 or February 23rd and March 9th. So we teams have an ability to tag a player. After March 9th, then that window is closed. So the next big thing that happens is the start of the new year, which is March 17th, and that's when free agency starts. So March 17th is going to be big because there's a lot of players being cut right now and going to continue to be cut. A lot of big names, or not even big names, just a lot of impactful players that from different teams. I think Ray mentioned before the pod started there was someone from, what'd you say? Someone got cut.
Um, Golden Tate from
Yeah,
the
Golden Tate.
Giants, among others, though.
Yeah, there's a ton of people, and so it's gonna be crazy actually, and I'm really curious to see what the Cowboys are gonna do. So we're gonna keep an eye on out for that, and of course have a pod out for you guys. You know, whether we sign someone or what we think we should sign, depending on the free agents that are out. But once all that kind of settles down, April 19th is when the offseason workouts start. And then the another key date is April 23rd. That's when the last day that you can sign restricted free agents. And then April 28th is the last day that the teams can match the offers that the restricted agents got from other teams. And then the big thing in the offseason is the NFL draft, and that's April 29th through May 1st. So a few key dates here in March that we're going to keep an eye out in terms of what players are going to go where. It's going to be very, very busy in the NFL. Any big names, we'll definitely cover it, even if it's not Cowboys, just because it's the offseason and anything the Cowboys do for sure. And so as far as what the Cowboys go in this, the Cowboys' position in this timeline is, so we're going to have to either come to an agreement with Dak by March 9th, or we have to franchise tag him. And then I think we have to sign him. I don't know the exact date. Like there's a period where we can agree to a long-term extension, and then once we pass that, then there's no negotiating. He's on that franchise tag, and we have to wait till next year. So that's kind of like the timeline of the offseason for us. We're just gonna keep our eye on that. But I'm very excited. Like all these free agents that are about to come available, there's a lot of missing holes that we need to cover up on defense, and we're gonna keep an eye out. What are you most excited for? The draft, free agency?
Probably the draft. The free agency is really not. I don't see us being very active in it because we're as it is. I think the cap constraints are gonna we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
have to focus just on signing our own guys. We have a lot of free agents to be. We're gonna have to re-sign. We still have Dak that we're working on. I just can't see us making these like big name like signings. So for me, I think the NFL draft is really, where it's at. What I'm interested to see is the free agency also
Mm-hmm.
for, our rivals.
Mm.
Who do they pick up? Because I feel like in the past few years, teams like the Eagles and teams like, the Washington football team have, brought in, players to help their team out. And, um, so I'm just concerned with with our NFC East, rivals getting stronger with this free agency, but I'm not really sure what their cap situations are, so uh just keeping an eye on it and stuff. But NFL draft I think is really, to me, where we're gonna have to see what we do with that, and
Yeah.
hopefully, gosh, like get
Well,
some just good talent, man. It's,
well, it's exciting because we have a low pick.
yeah, no, exactly, yeah.
So
I mean, 10th overall is great.
yeah, I mean, definitely, it's gonna be exciting. Free agency, I don't know. I think we're gonna get a good depth. I think we're gonna go try to look for a corner, maybe a safety, um, maybe some linemen if anything becomes available. But it's all gonna have to go around if we can get this DAC contract done, because we don't know what the rest of the cap is gonna look like unless we sign him. So that's really going to constrain us if we don't if we can't agree to a contract with him. It might affect the way we go about our free agency.
Yeah, for sure.
But the NFL draft is something I look forward to, even when we don't have a high pick. It's just fun energy. It's like, oh, who's got what? It's the NFL draft. It's big for a reason. But yeah, that's all we got for y'all today. Slowish week. I know we're just gonna be talking about Dak pretty much this off season, but that's why we talk about other players. I know it was a Cowboys podcast, but we want to make sure that we cover the big news and kind of still correlate it back to the Cowboys. We still tie it together, um, and we're gonna keep doing that in the off season. Again, March 9th. So by next podcast, we'll know if we tag him officially. So because we're gonna try to record on Tuesday nights, so March 9th, and then March 17th is free agency, which we would have recorded by then. We'd have to wait till the next pod. But yeah, if you guys are still tuning in, make sure you follow us on Twitter and Facebook, at number 5 star underscore podcast on Twitter, and then 5 star podcast on Facebook. And yeah, just keep liking the videos, follow on all social media, and don't forget to leave us a little review on iTunes or Spotify. Any last words, Ray?
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
All right, man. We'll see you all next week. Later.